Mother-in-law accused me of infidelity, and it has affected my relationship with my wife. I have been with my friend and soulmate for 9 years, married for 1. No children. We have been there for each other since the beginning and have seen some fantastic moments and moments that required us to communicate and compensate with success. She is unique, beautiful, and the one for me. However, a recent event has shaken the foundation of our relationship. My wife, her brother, and her mother is the survivor of abuse. She grew up in a household with a father who severely abused them on a physical and mental level, to the point that they've dealt with PTSD issues, especially the mother. Her mother, my mother-in-law, is the physical representation of being nice without a backbone, the type of person who would give the shirt off her back, and because of her upbringing/experiences, is afraid to say no to people, often at the expense of her mental well-being. Because of her traumatic experiences, and poor financial decisions, she has little to her name, and as her son has avoided helping her out, my wife and I took her with us as we bought our first house a few months before the pandemic. She has memory/physical issues that make living by herself difficult. In light of these realities, I love her very much, as she has been very supportive of my relationship with her daughter and is naturally protective of my family, especially if they are taken advantage of. We live in a rural area with lots of nature and few people. My mother-in-law stayed with us during the pandemic, which was a positive for her, as coming from a city, she would have not seen her son and her other family members for quite some time during the city's having higher anxiety with the pandemic, which would have seriously affected her health being alone. All was good until a moment happened. A year into the pandemic, my wife and I came across a woman on one of our hikes. Let's call her N. She, 38F, was very welcoming and sociable and pretty, and my wife and her became close friends fast, going on hikes, paddleboarding, walking her dog and our dogs, etc. I welcomed the interaction for my wife. She was getting blue during the lockdowns, but I kept my distance initially from N, saying hello to her here and there, but not much beyond. I have a terrible track record of being friends with women. I am very sociable when relaxed with people, and value character over appearance. I love listening and learning from others, and combined with my devotion to fitness and hygiene, has led to women falling for me over time. I have had to say no to these circumstances, as I don't believe in leading people on when I don't see them beyond being friends, and don't care about one-night stands or body counts. This has unfortunately led to serious falling outs, as the women have taken it personally and stopped talking to me, which also has hurt me as I valued their friendships and would talk to them today if possible. As such, my talks with N were high and by-ish at best. N also became close with my mother-in-law. In short, she got along with the ladies in my family and respected them, so I approved. She was a witness to our wedding. We got married during the lockdown so no one could see our moment. We don't live near family, and she became like a family member. As time went on, Anne and I engaged in small talk, and I learned that we could engage in intellectual conversations quite well. She was very intelligent. But I never saw her beyond a friend, not just because I was married, but also because I believed our personalities would have never meshed. She is rebellious and struggles to communicate effectively when upset, and I like my stability and effective communication. She would compliment me on my appearance at times, i.e. nice shirt, but never came across as suggestive and respected my connection with my wife. A few months after I got married, however, things changed for the worse. One night, my mother-in-law came up to me when I was alone and asked, "Are you sleeping with N?" I was shocked and offended. In all my years of living, I always preferred relationships to flings, and as such had a one-woman mindset, whenever I was committed to someone. I have been approached to cheat on my past girlfriends and wife by other women, and always said no. I was cheated on in my 20s and said I would never do the same to another. Even when my relationships were rocky, never did I look to other women as the answer. I made sure I gave 100% to a relationship, successful or doomed. To hear this accusation from a woman who I seemingly thought saw my loyalty to her daughter shook me to my core. My relationship with my mother-in-law soured. I began noticing more than ever the uneasiness she showed whenever Anne spoke to me. She would get quiet and awkwardly leave the room. I began getting paranoid about the whole thing, feeling that every word and action toward Anne was being judged. I told my wife. Thankfully, she believed me and spoke with her mother, reassuring her that I was as loyal as a husband could be. As mentioned before, my mother-in-law suffers from PTSD, and as I would soon learn, she was projecting her relationship views and scars onto her own daughter. Her ex-husband cheated on her, and she was seemingly believing I was a manifestation of the infidelity she experienced, despite having no evidence of me being suggestive or intimate with Anne. I soon learned that she had little to no control over her thoughts, and it was then I learned that my family's relationship with Anne was coming to an end. Eventually, Anne noticed my mother-in-law's awkward presence when we spoke, to the point she spoke with my wife and me and asked why my mother-in-law was awkward every time Anne spoke to me. We had no choice but to tell her the truth. My wife and I are terrible liars, and not surprisingly, Anne was offended and furious, to the point she confronted my mother-in-law in a huge screaming match. This led to Anne not talking to us for several months. During that period my wife became depressed and angry. As they were really close, my mother-in-law was filled with guilt, and I was still furious that I could even be seen as the type of man, a cheater, I worked very hard not to be. I told my wife that I couldn't live with her mother anymore, and we made the difficult decision to find a nearby apartment for her to live in. It was very tough for all of us. Eventually, Anne reached out to my wife. By this time the lockdowns ended, and I began traveling for work again, so I wasn't around at the time of reconciliation. And they began doing things again like before, which I was happy to see. Anne however asked my wife that for the time being she didn't want to see my mother-in-law as she was still processing the accusations of Anne and I in an affair. Anne also asked my wife if she could call me while I was away, to which my wife agreed. Anne called me while I was away, and the conversation was awkward. She thanked me for being understanding of her needing time to process the situation, and I thanked her for showing the maturity to reconcile where most wouldn't. I also said this is the curse of intergender friendships, that many people can be quick to assume, in this case, that a heterosexual man and woman talking amicably can mean more than friends talking. And then ended the conversation rather abruptly and wished me well in my work. While I was still away, Anne and my wife still hung out, but when my wife offered a meet-up involving her, Anne, and my mother-in-law, Anne refused, and my wife seemingly took this as an insult to her mother. She got so angry that she told Anne that they couldn't be friends anymore. When I came back, I tried to talk to my wife about the situation but saw that she had truly made up her mind, as was now beginning to think that Anne had a crush on me, which I couldn't see. The friendship was over. I was there the last time they saw each other, and they returned some shared belongings to each other. It wasn't pretty. I had to break it up, and it led to Anne driving off in a huff, never to be seen again. As for my mother-in-law, I didn't talk to her for a year. She moved back to the city to live with her son, who finally accepted her into his life as he had a baby and can't afford child care. Not wanting to talk to her began a rift between my wife and me for a time. My wife would get very angry at me and one time even cut herself, the first time she ever did that with me, and I firmly told my wife that I will talk to her when ready. I eventually made the decision to talk to my mother-in-law in person. She visited us for a week, and after a lengthy and harsh conversation, I forgave her, one of the harder things I have done. She still lives with her son, and I still stand by keeping a distance, as her age and thinking are dangerous to my mental health and marriage. In a perfect world, I would like to see her engage in therapy or a medical route, but I am aware she is her own person, and at her age isn't likely going to change years of trauma and paranoia anytime soon. I still love her and have more empathy for victims of domestic abuse. I now know the damage can last long after the final blow, but it has changed my relationships with her and my wife. I won't forbid my wife to see her mother, but I can't see her mother the same way again. It has also put my desire to have children on hold, as I feel a period of my wife and I without her mother needs to happen before I make that decision. Mother naturally has a clingy personality, but to her credit has given us our space. This has led to serious arguments between my wife and me, to the point that my wife has asked me how I would feel about hypothetically breaking up. My wife and I truly love each other, but the recent events have taken a toll on our relationship. Has anyone experienced a situation like this, and what suggestions would you give in a situation like this? Any and all thoughts are appreciated. Comment. Given how hurt you and your wife are and have been throughout all of this and how it has affected your marriage, I would strongly recommend marriage counseling for both of you and, parallel to that, individual counseling for your wife if she hasn't fully addressed the fallout of growing in an abusive environment. Maybe she can start reading books and doing exercises contained therein, such as Toxic Parents by Susan Forward. Good luck, dude. Your mill has literally caused 2 friendships to end, a family rift, and marriage issues all because of her accusations. And your wife is on you to fix it? Your mill is the problem, but don't forget she raised your wife, which is why your wife is a problem too. And your wife couldn't stand with you and her friend who did nothing wrong. She took her mill side and is now forcing the relationships again as if mill don't have a baby here. Don't. Given your wife condition and in-law influences, do not let her baby trap you. Your wife for valid reasons are full of insecurities, and having a baby with difficulties could make big impact even on healthier people with less drama in their life. It seems it is a decision for you if your love is strong enough to keep you through coming challenges. Your wife is testing you by talking about possible breakout. Very soon it could extend to your job and long trips too. You should call her on her game and come all clean for one final decision. Either the trust is there for both of you not. Based on not having child for now, you sent the message and she is not taking it very well. Next story 2. I 31M hurt my girlfriend 26F and I don't know what to do. How can I save my relationship? I and my girlfriend have been in a long-term relationship for 2 years now, soon to be 3, but from the beginning, she has hated one of my oldest friends. When I was friends with my soon-to-be girlfriend, I used to tell stories about my friends, and my best friend appeared in many of them. She and I had a fling for 3 months more than 10 years ago, and since we ended that, we became good friends. From my side, I feel absolutely nothing for her anymore. Since day one of my current girlfriend and my relationship, she asked me to cut ties with my friends because she felt jealous and, in her words, afraid that with her around, she wasn't enough. So, I did. I cut ties with my friend on social media, unfollowing her completely, and messaging immediately, without consulting my friend or even giving her a warning. Since then, I have been having a great relationship with my girlfriend. But as I am extremely shy, I missed my friend a lot. Even in December, I asked my girlfriend if I could be in touch again with her, and she said no, but she understood that she was only my friend. However, something changed a few weeks ago. I went to a mall and suddenly met my friend, who was with some guy. We greeted each other warmly, and she confirmed that he was her new boyfriend and that she was very happy. Since then, I sent her memes through chat and exchanged courtesies with her. As I live in Colombia, we use WhatsApp as the primary messaging app. I put the chat with my friend in the archived section since I don't always look at those chats, and I add many chats I don't want to keep checking or even get notifications from, but I still have to be there. Recently, my girlfriend saw the list of archived chats and saw her name. From that moment on, she became weird, and now she is taking some time off to figure out what to do. What do you think? Should I try to explain the situation when I obviously hurt her, or what would be a good approach to improve the relationship with her?